Welcome to another episode of the Warmup presented by Grindhouse. You're here with your boy Kev RL, Mississippi Chris, Reg, aka you can be a hero, you can be here, bro. Chris. Oh man. And Cancer 2020, Curtis, what's up? All right, man. So today we got a couple of things we want to talk about, but before we jump in, I'm gonna just hit you with a quote and we get right in it. All right. Give to every human being every right that you claim for yourself. Robert Eager Soli. This stuff that's going on today, unless you're living under a rock, you may not know. But over the past week, there's been several protests over the death of George Floyd. Yet another unarmed black man by Minneapolis police. And yeah, that's caused a lot of protests. Actually, over 700 cities, 50 states. And from what I hear, it's still growing. So there's a lot going on, lots happening, and just want to get the guys' take on how you feel about it, how you feel about the protests. Do you think it's having the intended impact? Just tell me your thoughts. And I think I'm gonna kick it off with you, Mississippi Chris, the man of the yellow. Let me hear what you got to say.
Cool. No problem. Overall, it's a very sad, tragic thing that happened. So condolences to the people who have felt the impact of this event. But as far as how the protest has grown and has shown some level of solidarity, I'm really proud to kind of be behind and be in a line of those people who are out there putting their lives on the line amongst each other, even amid the COVID-19, and putting themselves at risk just to incite change. This is probably the only time you can actually enforce change without it being through the political process, meaning like getting officers or officials in there and trying to get them to basically become an elected official so you can make those changes. This is more of an external wake-up call for a lot of politicians and people like that. So I am happy that we've gotten a lot of people who are who are allies, and going out there and capturing a lot of the raw footage, showing what it's like to be on the ground, showing kind of the impact and the love that people share with respect to making sure that we get the proper justice and get the systemic institutions changed, updated, or just broken down altogether. So I personally think it's really good. I know there's going to be some sore spots with respects to looting and some of the bad behavior, but at the end of the day, the cause is a call of action to everyone, and the fact that it's hit all 50 states, it's hit more than like 30 countries or so, and it's something that everyone can relate with, whether you're black, brown, or other. Like that just shows that it's a pretty eventful thing to kind of be a part of. So,
and we're gonna touch on the rioting and looting later on. Cancer 2020, how you been keeping up with what's going on? What's your thoughts? How you been feeling about it?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Mississippi Chris was saying. I think it's crazy to think about how the events of 2020 have lined up. Unfortunately, COVID's an unfortunate thing. We don't even talk about the killer wasps anymore that were coming, right?
They on the way.
It was one of the shows. It was a thing, and like they vanished, right? COVID, killer wasp, right? It's crazy. Lockdowns, protect the public, and now all of a sudden, the world is like a stage to watch and hear and learn about the Black struggle. And I hate that it happened at the loss of George Floyd. That's a shame. But it was a heinous murder that we all witnessed. I mean, it's out there like murder porn, right? But the events, the way they align, the world can't do anything but take notice. And I like the momentum. I love the momentum that's going on. I hate the reason why it started, but just like he was saying, I love the momentum. Yes, I'm with it.
Definitely. Speaking about platforms and stage, they're putting a lot of shows out there on Amazon. Some shows they're putting out for free on Google and all these other different streaming platforms. I think as a way to make people aware of the struggle that we went through. A movie can't really convey it, but at least it's some exposure. I'm gonna take it to you. You can be here, bro. Um,
Just real
how you been
quick.
feeling about the protests?
Just real quick. I also just want to know. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt. Well, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm going to just inject one thing that that was overlooked by both me and Mr. Cancel 2020 was the the use of video cameras and just how it's capturing everything on live is showing time and time again how powerful that tool is. And honestly, the fact that we had to see it is indicative of the system and also indicative of how we were able to drive home the point that we have been experiencing these kinds of, I guess, trials and tribulations over generations. So, but yeah, sorry.
Reg.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree a lot with Cancel 2020. I like the energy. I mean, hate what happened, but like the energy, the camaraderie, the pulling together, and also even like that. It's really hard to be on the sidelines now. It's also doing like a lot of like exposing, to people who were like, before they kind of been hiding in the sideline and being able to get away with all lives matter. And now stuff like that is being very clear cut. Like people see what you are for what you are. I don't know. I feel like the culmination of, everybody being antsy from COVID and stuff, like everybody kind of had time. The world already stopped. I feel like something about this atmosphere just feels different, that we might actually see some real change. Just the way that he died, it's going to be very hard for people to spin it and put the political, like I at least when it first happened, like over time, people are going to get divided again. I think across the board, people were like, yo, what the hell?
Definitely.
Like, it's just crazy.
So you touched on something that we do want to talk about next, which is the intended impact. So you mentioned that a lot of you alluded to it, like in the current stage, we're all kind of seeing it. We have all this tape, all this footage. Like, how do you feel about the intended impact? Are we hitting the nail on the head with these protests? If not, what do you think is the most effective way to protest? And even if you think we're hitting the nail on the head, just give me some of your thoughts on what's the most effective way to protest to make sure that we get the points out there and make everyone aware. Let me go with Cancer 2020 on this one. Let me start with you.
Yeah, so I think hitting the nail on the head. It was 8 minutes, right? 8 minutes that I forget his name,
Derek Chauvin.
Yeah. Okay.
Had his knee on George's neck, right? 8 minutes. Reg, if you kill me, they locking you up that night, right? If we do that to each other, we get locked up. But he was still able to walk the streets, go home, see his wife, do whatever he does at the house, and go to work the next day, and continue to live as a free man. They didn't lock him up until the protest started, right? Then the protest got a little violent, turned up the pressure. Then they locked up the other cops, right? Turned up the pressure a little bit more. Now we're going back to Breonna Taylor. Now we're looking at, let's look at this. Let's look at this department too and see what else we can do. So, we're hitting on the head because peace. You can't get peace by being peaceful. That's something that's a misconception. You cannot have peace by being peaceful, and you can't protect peace by being peaceful. That's just my take on it. So, I think it's sitting on the head. There's some elements that are missing as far as like an agenda, long term. I know you mentioned about politics and getting the people in the right offices that think in a holistic way. Like, what's the agenda? What's next? Because the protests are going to run out. The world is going to start moving again. We're all going to start getting busy. And at the end of it, what's the product we're pushing for? I admire what the Tea Party did because they copied off the civil rights movement, but they got their people in place. And that's why we're in this climate now. That's part of the reason why.
And just to be clear, you want to add to that?
Again, hit the nail on the head. Everything that Council 2020 said, I wholeheartedly agree with. And just to add to what he was saying, first off, yes, the people who get upset about how you protest, look, we came from a lineage of protesting before we were the United States of America. If anybody read any history books, you would know the Boston Tea Party was not a peaceful protest. It was a protest of raiding an institution, throwing off the tea as a demonstration, and making those I guess patrolmen go back to Britain. Like that was, or England. Like that was the reaction. That was the rioting. Stonewall riots. That was the transgender LGBTQ rioting. And obviously that was met with the kind of force that you would expect a police officer or police regime to do, which is usually with batons, dogs, hoses, tear gas, anything that they get their hands on to try to diminish the rioting. Yes, you're going to have looters. My condolences are to those businesses, especially the small businesses who were caught in the wrath of the looting and things like that. So I do know there are some people who are suffering because of that. And again, condolences to those people. However, I do think that the greater cause is we have to, the rioting and looting is what's going to make it on the news. You're not going to see all the peaceful stuff. The peaceful things you can't ignore. Meaning, oh yeah, they're talking and they're marching, they're doing these things, they shut down an intersection. You can go around the intersection if you really wanted to, and then just like not have anything. And it doesn't. What the looting and the rioting and all those other things does is it there's a certain level of elevation, a heightened sense of awareness that you need to get something done now, because now you want to, what your first thing you want to do as an institution is you want to kind of quell that. You don't want that rioting or that uprising to swell. You want to try to put it out as much as possible, but that gets their attention now. So as far as a legitimate way or illegitimate way, the only illegitimate way, or there's no wrong way to protest. That's kind of what I'm getting at. If your protest gets the amount of attention that you are looking for, and you are able to push whatever agendas onto your paid officials who you pay their salaries to do, to represent you, as long as you get their attention to do the things to elevate your welfare as a human, I'm okay with it.
Definitely. I'm gonna jump to you. You can be here, bro. But before I do that, let me just give you guys a dictionary definition of protest: to declare something firmly and emphatically in the face of stated or implied doubt, or a response to an accusation. So there are a couple of words out there that maybe like lend to the points that both of you made, which is like firmly and emphatically in the face of stated or implied doubt. There's a lot of doubt around here on whether or not we're being mistreated. So I'm gonna leave it at that and jump to you can be here, bro. And I want to add a question. You can answer the question that we asked previously, which is, what's the most effective way to protest? But I also want to add to it, since Chris talked a little bit about the rioting and looting. Do you think rioting and looting delegitimize a protest or a movement? Touch on one, touch on the other, and then I'll go around with the room with the same question.
I'll go pick up the convo where it kind of left off. I'll say with Cancel 2020, to your point before, there's a quote that says, if you want peace, prepare for war.
Yes.
So that's how it is. On what Chris was saying, I think I can't say they nailed it on the head or not yet, because it's still work to do. I think in terms of short-term goals, we did see kind of what wanted to happen was, arrests and charges. We see that so far. I don't think that's the end goal. Those are short-term goals, prosecutions that last, people serving their sentences, changes, systematic changes. I think those would be telling whether this protest hit the nail on the head, because people got arrested, to make peace before. And I think that in terms of like a response that is not a society we should be in, it shouldn't be until there's rioting and looting for decisions like that to be made, because then people are going to feel like that's what needs to happen all the time, and that shouldn't be the case. To the question on like what's the most effective way of protesting, it has to be disruptive, I think, because if it's easy to ignore, then it's not really doing it. He's not moving the needle. I think like, Kaepernick's protest was cool, but once it became elevated because somebody asked him a question about it, that's when it really became disruptive. And that's when you had more conversation about it, good or bad conversation, healthy or unhealthy, but it was talked about. It wasn't just like, okay, some guy's kneeling. Now it's like, oh, like, and it kind of got lost in the sauce on why he was kneeling, and it became like, oh, we're gonna kneel. I'm gonna kneel on 2 knees. Like, it got real stupid real quick. So I don't know.
Hand in hand, coming out like the Green Bay Packers. Yeah.
I would say there's no such thing as the most effective. I think keys to protests are, being disruptive to an extent. I personally would like peace, and I don't want any, because in a lot of these times, people are getting hurt on the other end of this, like protesters and even rioters and looters themselves. So I would rather not see George Floyd have a knee on his neck, so we don't even have to get this far.
Definitely.
How effective the protest? It depends on you. I think it's just like anything in life. You got to find your passion and what works for you. Like, if you like being out with the people, I think protests in general, like hearing people talk on the town hall that we had the other day, somebody just saying like, going out there, they want to be out there. I think just seeing that other people, whether they're like you or not, are kind of standing for you're not alone, because a lot of the times these situations make you feel like, damn, nobody else cares about us. Nobody else will show up for us. Yeah. So seeing that in volume, even though it's like symbolic, it does help and legitimize the cause. Does rioting and looting delegitimize it? I don't think it has anything to do with the protests, really. I think it's like two separate things, kind of. There's some overlap, but I feel like that's just like, you have to think about what's going on, that if somebody's willing to do these things, like most of us who have, like, we feel like we have something to lose, we wouldn't partake in that. So that's also something that our government needs to look at. Like, if a lot of people are in situations where they just feel like they have nothing to lose, that's not a good look for our country.
I see. You wanna add anything to that, Mississippi Chris, as well, in response to the delegitimizing, protest, rioting, and looting?
Well, so I like I said, I agree with what you can be here, bro, can say.
Hard. It's hard, yeah. It's hard.
I know, man. This a whole
you put me up every time.
And nothing was the same. I was like, bro, what are you doing? But yeah, I do agree with what he's saying. The reason that I said that it hit the nail on the head, just to kind of go back on that point, is usually when you have a protest, the first thing you want to do is get their attention and have a list of demands that you will want. Now, if you have to get their attention by being disruptive, if that includes rioting, if that includes inconveniencing a group of people, how small or how big that is, it doesn't matter. You need to get their attention first. Once you get their attention, you need to have a list of demands. The list of demands needs to be concise and coincide with something that is tangible, to where they can go and implement that, or come up with a framework or a blueprint of how to implement that. When they rioted in Minneapolis, they went and they said they had 4 demands. They had, one was all 4 of those police officers need to be locked up and charged, no bail, and then there's like 2 other ones. But that's usually what you need to do as far as being successful, and obviously you need to drive that to completion. So that's not. I understand that you have to wait and see, but as of right now, I mean, my grade can always change. As of right now, with the information that I have, we're talking about defunding the police now. We're talking about breaking up the police as an institution in Minneapolis right now, or that's what they're talking about. and just
Oh wow, I didn't know
yeah.
that.
There's the thing is that now you got everyone considering all the different options. Everything's on the table, and that should be the point of the protest.
Most definitely. So when it comes to the rioting and the looting, you don't think it delegitimize
No,
the
I
protest?
think that's just par for the course. Anytime you have any kind of disruption, you're going to have some loss. Whether people getting arrested, people getting injured, people losing, or like property damage. Again, I understand that coming from a small business person's frame of perspective, it's unfortunate, and I can't empathize with them and say, yeah, that is messed up. Like you was caught in the crossfire, but it's just like if you're caught in as your business goes down, if you are get hit by a hurricane or flash flooding that you didn't expect, like those things happen. And I'm not saying these things are the same, but I'm saying I can empathize with the loss of business. So yeah.
I think those things got to be separate though. I think like protest, it has to be like protesters, and there got to be rioters and looters. If your protest includes if your movement, like if your organization that's over here trying to make demands includes rioting and protesting, I don't think you can commit crimes and then come to the table on trying to be the high horse demanding somebody pay for their crime.
That would be tough to do. That would be very tough to do.
Yeah. So I think in that way, I think in that form, yes, it would delegitimize. But I think the way it is now, the people who are out there protesting or coming up with action plans and stuff like that, I don't think they're the ones right.
Definitely.
Yeah, I believe you on that. You have any thoughts on it? Cancel 2020?
So I agree with I guess the major points on it, but does it delegitimize it? No, I like what both of you guys said. I think you need one with the other. It's about a balance. It's a dance. There's some that say King was effective back in the day because of the threat of X. Can you imagine if X would have got his wish? We'd have been a revolution. Right? Garvey, they chose to work with King because, in part, the threat of the others. So growing up, I was kind of hard-headed, right? My mom would try to talk to me, words, threaten a little bit, pinch. My dad comes home, tired, long day of work. I'm still doing my thing in my zone. I'm focused now, man. Hey, all right, you popped me. Now, hey, let me go to mom and talk to the protester so I can see. But hey, don't call that dude anymore, man. I don't want him looting and rioting upside my head anymore.
Yeah.
And it lasts for a while. So I just equate it to kind of like human nature, man. I think it's a dance, so it's kind of like what Public Enemy. I got to stay up to date on your name changes. Public Enemy said because I don't think you can have one without the other, but it's just a balance.
It is a balance. Yeah. Well, hopefully it's more protest than it is rioting and looting, because I want to say you guys hit on good things, and I think you gave a good broad perspective on the different ways to view it. So I think you touched on a lot of good things right there. And hopefully, man, we wouldn't have to go this far to get people's attention. I think that's the unfortunate thing, that you have to resort to these kind of things to get people's attention. That's a sad